Hello and welcome to Moving Iron Podcast Market Rundown with Chip Nellinger. Chip, how you doing today, bud?
Hey, doing good. It's kind of the official start of, I guess, crazy season here
Yeah,
as of this morning,
yeah,
as of yesterday afternoon, I guess.
yeah. There's a absolute ton of stuff going on. I mean, I tell you what, there's more stuff going on now than there's been in the past, and I mean, just all in 1 week, we've got trade talks with China. Um, we've got you know trade delegation coming to China. There's kind of been a line drawn in the sand with uh, with China, and you start concerning that stuff.
I'd say so.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd
it's kind
say
of the
so.
it's kind of by God, we're gonna have something done by Thursday. We're putting tariffs back in place, and so that kind of we've talked about it several times. Other thing we got this week too, we got a crop report coming out this week too. First one for May that's going to give that big picture of what new crop actually looks like that's been planted.
Yeah,
But we've talked about it several times here since we've been doing this over the past almost 2 years now. It's amazing what a tweet will do. It's
yeah,
that tweet came out on Sunday. We finished up strong last week. We were talking about getting to 375, and that was going to be a big turning point. And man, did they open up Sunday just horribly down. So, and it just kind of took off from there. But it did rebound nice today. I mean, we did have a chance. We got back about half of what we lost. So, and then I got my alert here today, and it did show that there was we opened up pretty strong. So, there's a lot of stuff playing in it. So, talk about the all the influences you see in the market right now, and where do you see stuff heading?
yeah. Well, I think you did a good job summarizing everything right there. It's going to be a crazy week. You got a lot of that's kind of been thrown in the kettle here, and we're is the stew going to be tasty and good to eat, or is it going to make us sick? I'm not sure yet. So far, it's making us sick. But there's a lot in the pot right now that's brewing, and China's number one. We went from last Friday a tweet from President Trump that this thing is essentially the market took it like it's a done deal. Like this thing's going well.
Yep.
We're going to get this thing done. Sunday afternoon, it's not going well. China's backing off on some of their promises. We're going to tariff everything. We're going to increase the current tariffs that are in place. As you mentioned, the market just really got crushed Sunday night, early Monday morning. Got back about half of that. But now you got the weather, this weather, which has been real supportive. And I mean, there's just very little in the ground out here. I know there's pockets of Western Illinois, there's pockets in Iowa, Missouri that have a fair amount of beans in the ground, but it's been a real struggle getting stuff in the ground. More rain here tonight locally. I look at the radar right before we start recording here, and out your way there's more rain. There's more rain the next 3 or 4 days. There's a little bit of a hint that we're going to have a little bit of a drying period next week, starting like late weekend next week, that we might be able to get some corn in the ground. But as I talk to producers here today, on a lot of areas, especially the Eastern Corn Belt, they're going to need 5, 6 days to dry out. And the problem is that clock of drying is probably going to start Thursday, Friday, maybe even Saturday, because there's more rain coming late this week. You mentioned also the May crop report gives us a snapshot, the first official snapshot from USDA of what the new crop supply and demand is. We know they're going to use the March acreage, and we know they're going to use trendline yields. But what we don't know is the demand side of the equation that they're going to use. So that's going to be important. It's likely, given this, kind of roaring into mid-May in a real wet pattern, that we've seen the highest corn acreage number. That's probably going to be shaved back some, but we're probably going to be debating that until the January crop report, unfortunately, because of the way they do these acreage reports in March and June. That's kind of my soapbox, my hot button. I hate the acreage reports. I don't think they tell you anything. I think they're inaccurate. They refuse to change them, but that's for a different podcast, I guess, when I go off on a tangent. So long answer, much longer. This is going to be a wildly volatile week. You've got weather, you've got China, you've got crop report, and this thing's really starting to get interesting. And who knows where it's going to land. It's hard enough trading the weather market, which we're in, and then you throw all this political nonsense in. We got a trade deal. We don't have a trade deal. It's the same thing we've had for 9 months now. It's like having a baby that's now overdue. We're ready for the baby to be born. And we don't know if it's a boy or a girl, or it could be an alien at this point. I don't know, but we just need the baby to be born, and that's the trade deal. The market's sick of being pregnant right now.
Right.
Casey.
Yeah. I get
I'm
it.
off my high horse now, but we need an answer quickly.
Okay, so let's talk about that for a minute. So you look at China or weather. Which one's a bigger deal right now? Which one's going to have the bigger influence on the marketplace?
In the very short run, China, because it's on again, off again. We don't know for sure. The last I heard or saw, I read a tweet here a half hour ago that the trade talks are still on. So last week we were our trade reps were in China. This week they were coming to Washington. There was some talk today. We're going to delay it. We're going to suspend it. It does look like it's on. The last news I saw for Thursday and Friday. So China in the short run is the biggest influence. It's going to have the biggest market influence. But I would say, secondarily, it's the weather. And if we don't start getting some planning activity going like really quickly, if this forecast for the window of dry weather next week, if that's a bust and we have rain next week, you've got a serious issue. And you're going to have some areas that get pushed off to the last week in May or the first week in June as far as planting. And that's going to be a much bigger influence longer term. But in the short run, it's just China dominates all the news cycle right now.
Right. Okay, so let's bounce over and look at the livestock market. Again, hogs and cattle were finished up. They kind of had a rougher week, but they kind of bounced back towards the end. What do you see happening so far this week?
Yeah, that's a tough one. We've beaten this cattle market up so bad that we've got a big discount in the June futures to where cash traded last week. We have had the cash market drop fairly significantly, but there was such a discount in the June live cattle futures to where cash is that's going to be a little bit of a supportive influence. A little bit of, I don't know. I think in the big picture, if we had a China deal, it's probably going to include some U.S. beef. But I think most people in the cattle world, in the beef industry, realize China's taken our beef already. It's just moving through places like Korea and Hong Kong. And so the cattle market thinks that the China deal is as big an influence because it's already taken our U.S. beef. But it's a massive thing for pork. They've been in the market for the last 5-6 weeks for huge amounts of U.S. pork. We haven't shipped any of that yet. And now this, most recent tweet storm on Sunday that the trade deal's off, apparently, until further notice, really hit the hog market. So, pretty much limit down in all contracts out there in hogs. And it is a huge deal because that is one area, that they've already stated that and made some actual physical purchases of U.S. pork. And they could, if there's no trade deal, they'll come right back and just cancel all that stuff. And that would be a big deal for hogs. It's a little bit of a different deal because they're the African swine flu issue. They really need pork. I mean, their pork prices have just shot through the roof there domestically. So they probably really need our pork products. But that doesn't mean in the short run they won't use that as bargaining chip. So it's kind of like a high stakes. This is, I think, probably a step above the World Series of Poker here. This is real life high stakes poker, and both sides are going all in. It's like.
Yeah. Well, I guess we'll find out Thursday what happens. I mean, there's
I saw a news story. 12:01 a.m. Friday morning is the most recent update I've heard. Is when basically those tariffs increase, and then additionally, every other product that we import will now have a tariff on it. So essentially, it's like Armageddon Day, Friday at 12:01 a.m. We basically tariff everything that comes in the United States from China and increase what's already there by double it. It sounds like on what the tariffs are already there. So that's a pretty that's an all-in statement right there.
Yeah.
And we'll see if China wants to play in this poker game or not, because they don't like being publicly humiliated like that. I wouldn't say humiliated, but bullied might be a better word, and that's kind of not in their culture. And so we'll see who's going to come out on top of this poker game. And unfortunately, it's kind of a gut-wrenching deal, and the stakes are high. They're real stakes, I mean, it's a big deal for agriculture right now, a big deal. So it's not fun and games. It's real life, and it's unfortunately it's front and center in everyone's world in agriculture right now.
Absolutely is. Absolutely. Even you take a look at stock markets. Whether it be the Dow or
Oh yeah,
S&P 500 or whatever, and even over in China, the what's it called? I can't remember what it's called. The Chinese stock.
Yeah, the Hang Seng, I think, is what they call their stock market. Yeah, there are big swings there.
Yeah.
Currency markets, bond markets.
Yeah.
Friday we set an all-time high in our stock market.
Yeah.
And on ideas that this China trade deal's a done deal and unemployment's already low and our economy's cranking along, and then all of a sudden, comes two tweets Sunday, and at one point our stock market was down, I think, about 500 points early, kind of still closed lower, but way off those lows.
Yep.
And we'll see. It's affecting everything: financial markets, currency markets, bond markets, obviously agriculture, probably pork, hogs/pork and cotton were the two biggest losers today in the deal. Obviously beans got hit too, but those are probably the three top ag markets that have the most to lose, is cotton, pork, and beans, maybe in that order. I guess you could argue that pork probably has the most to lose, maybe followed number two by cotton and soybeans, but major deal. So let's hope that calmer heads prevail and we get some sort of a deal announced, and both sides can kind of meet in the middle, which there's not been much of out of Washington for 8 or 12 years, and we can get some sort of deal and get that behind us, and then worry about weather and production like we're used to.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what happens, and I hope things turn around on Thursday and Friday, and going into Monday, we've got ourselves a tentative agreement to move forward on outlining the details and getting that stuff done. So I feel like both sides have gone past we're going to wait each other out. I don't think China might have had the idea that they were going to wait out the United States going into until Trump got to the elections came around in 2020, and just kind of hold on, see if something happened. If you got reelected, they might be a little more serious and ready to move forward. But their stock market's been taking a pretty good spanking here in the last. They lost 5.6% on Monday when it opened today. When it hit the skids there. So that was 5 times more than what the U.S. lost. So if you look at their stock market across the since this whole thing happened, they've had a pretty good drop in their equity position in those markets. So I'm not saying
it's not just us. I mean, they're suffering as well. I mean, that's a good point. Their stock market's probably obviously been hit way harder than ours, and it affects both sides unquestionably. And hopefully we can get something done, because it is a big deal, and everyone's suffering, and that's the scary part, right? If we kind of part ways by Thursday, Friday, and don't have a deal, that may be it for a while, and that will not be a good thing. I mean, that it's getting, it's been scary all along, but it is really now in the final hours of this deal, really scary.
Yeah.
And if they decide, we'll just wait it out and see how the election turns out, it's not going to be a good thing. That's a long time from now, and if both sides dig in their heels, boy, we've had a lot of pain the last essentially 12 months since all this news came out. Billions and billions and billions of dollars of farm income evaporated because of the tariffs and low commodity prices.
Yeah.
And that's been the bulk of it. But, obviously we're producing big crops as well, which hasn't helped the situation. But if we part ways Thursday, Friday, and that's it for a while until the 2020 elections, it's really scary. It's a bad, bad deal. So let's hope calmer heads prevail and we can breathe a little bit of life back into agriculture because it's hurting right now.
Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Chip, plenty of stuff going on. Great time to put a plan together. Folks are working on one and they want you to review what they've got. How would they do that?
Yeah, that's always just call our office, 309-550-7213. We'd love to chat with you. Obviously, a lot of volatility going on. We see most of it kind of biased to the downside in here. But there's been opportunities, and just because it's been straight down doesn't mean that there aren't ways to maneuver and build some strategies into your marketing plan. So it's critically important. I know it's starting to get busy with field work. It's clock's ticking on getting field work done and planning started. And it's oftentimes easy to put the markets to the back burner. But obviously, right now, what's going on? They should be front and center because the opportunities may not last long if we get them. And you got to have a plan to be ready to execute and take advantage of the opportunities when we see them.
Right on. Absolutely. Good advice there, Chip. So, Chip, have yourself a good one, and we will talk to you again on Sunday.
Sounds good. Have a good rest of the week. And Sunday night should be another crazy night. We'll see what happens here with the weather and trade talks.
Yeah, last half of the week here, especially last 2 days of the week for sure, are going to have a huge swing. I mean, if we have a positive crop report and a bullish crop report, and they actually get something hammered out of China, I can't imagine what the crops are going to do or what the markets will do, or even vice versa. I mean, if you have a bullish or bearish,
and the weather, the weather might be the most important, but it kind of takes a back seat right now. But that 6 to 10 day forecast come Friday afternoon, that's going to be critically important. I mean, it's crunch time, and guys need 5, 6, 7 days of drying activity, and we got more rain coming the next 3 or 4 days. It'll be a crazy weather weekend just because of that 6 to 10 day forecast. And then you throw in the crop report, you throw in China. I mean, it's insanity, total insanity.
Yep. Yeah. Well, hey, what fun would it be if it wasn't complete chaos all the time, right?
Well, I'm getting about sick of it though. We need to get this China thing behind us and start worrying about the crop size and kind of get back to the old days where weather and production and not all this political stuff. I think whether it's financial markets, currency markets, our grain, livestock markets, they're getting just downright weary of this and frustrated and, need to kind of get back to some sort of normalcy. So we need to get this China thing figured out ASAP.
Yep. Right on. All right, Chip. Take care of yourself. Have a good night. We'll talk to you on Sunday, bud.
All right. Next Sunday we'll be there.
All right, buddy. We'll see you.